Rediscovered Books is proud to take part in the virtual readout for Banned Book Week.
I'm Barbara Olick Hamilton. I used to teach high school English for 35 years, 4 years adjunct at BSU, teaching future teachers of teaching. One of the topics that often came up was which books were hard to teach in the classrooms, which books might get you in trouble, which books were banned. And looking on any list, there are several books that I've taught. In fact, probably half of some of my curriculum lands on that list at one time or another. One of them is a very old book, Candide by Voltaire. And I'm going to read the first chapter, or the first part of the chapter. Chapter 1, How Candide was brought up in a beautiful castle, and how he was driven from the same. Once upon a time in Westphalia, in the castle of Monsieur the Baron von Thundertentruck, there lived a young boy on whom nature had bestowed the gentlest of dispositions. His countenance expressed his soul. He combined solid judgment with complete openness of mind, which is the reason, I believe, that he was called Candide. The older servants of the house suspected him to be the son of the Baron's sister by a kindly and honest gentleman of the neighborhood, whom that young lady refused ever to marry because he could only ever give proof of 71 quarterings, the rest of his genealogical tree having been lost through the ravages of time. The Baron was one of the most powerful lords of Westphalia, for his castle had a gate and windows. His great hall was even hung with a tapestry. All the dogs in his barnyards made up a pack when the need arose. His stable boys served for huntsmen. The village parson officiated at his grand almoner. Everyone called him Your Grace, and everyone laughed at his jokes. The Baroness, who weighed approximately 350 pounds and consequently basks in very great esteem, performed the honors of the house with a dignity that made her all the more imposing. Her daughter, Cunegonde, 17 years old and rosy-cheeked, was fresh, plump, and appetizing. The Baron's son seemed in every respect worthy of his father. Pangloss, the tutor, was the oracle of the establishment, to whose lessons little Candide listened with all the good faith of his age and nature. Pangloss taught metaphysical, theological cosmogony. He could prove to wonderful effect that there was no effect without cause, and that in this best of all possible worlds, his lordship, the Baron's castle, was the finest of castles, and her ladyship, the best of all possible baronesses. It is demonstrable, he would say, that things cannot be other than they are, for since everything is made to serve an end, everything is necessarily for the best of ends. Observe how noses were formed to support spectacles. Therefore we have spectacles. Legs are clearly devised for the wearing of breeches, therefore we wear breeches. Stones were formed to be hewn and made into castles, hence his lordship's beautiful castle, for the greatest baron in the province must perforce be the best housed. And since pigs were meant to be eaten, we eat pork all year round. Consequently, those who have argued that all is well have been talking nonsense. They should have said that all is for the best. Candide listened attentively, and he trusted innocently, for he found Mademoiselle Cunegonde extremely beautiful, though he had never had the effrontery to tell her so. He concluded that next to being born Baron von Thundertentruck, the second degree of bliss was being Mademoiselle Cunegonde, the third was seeing her every day, and the fourth was listening to Mr. Pangloss, the greatest philosopher in the province, and therefore in the whole world. One day, as Cunegonde was walking the grounds of the castle, in the little wood which everyone called the park, she caught sight through the undergrowth of Dr. Pangloss giving a lesson in experimental physics to her mother's chambermaid, a very pretty and tractable little brunette. Mademoiselle Cunegonde had a natural appetite for the sciences, and she noted breathlessly the repeated experiments to which she was witness. She saw clearly the doctor's sufficient reason, both the effects and the causes, and she returned home very agitated, very thoughtful, and very much filled with desire to be a scientist, reflecting that she might yet prove to be the sufficient reason of young Candide, who might in turn prove to be hers. She ran into Candide as she entered the castle and blushed. Candide blushed in turn. She bade him good day in a faltering voice, and Candide answered without knowing what he was saying. The next day after dinner, as everyone was leaving the table, Cunegonde and Candide found themselves behind the screen. Cunegonde dropped her handkerchief. Candide picked it up. Innocently, she took his hand in hers. Innocently, the young man kissed the young lady's hand, doing so with a singular vivacity, sensibility, and grace. Their lips met, their eyes blazed, their knees trembled, their hands strayed. His Excellency, the Baron von Thundertentruck, happened to be passing near the screen, and observing this cause and this effect, chased Candide out of the castle with great kicks to his backside. Cunegonde fainted. As soon as she came to her senses, she had her face slapped by the Baroness, and all was consternation in the most beautiful and delightful of possible castles.